Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Aging and Spirituality podcast. And this is all about anything we can do that we can share to help you get in touch with your potential. We all have great potential that we haven't tapped into it. And, it's about time.
It is.
I'm Chris Jensen.
I'm Kathy Lee Taylor.
Happy you're here with us. And we hope you're going to have a good time with this podcast and it's going to be helpful to you. So I want to talk about how much goodness do you really want in your life?
A lot.
Yeah. Now that may seem strange to say that, but we all want life to go smoothly. We want to live in abundance. We want to have great relationships. Maybe, if you're a meditator, you want to have deeper experiences. So why aren't our lives like that all the time? Maybe you have a vision board, you do affirmations. Yogis say probably it's because we're not open to receiving. So I know that's like a jarring thing for me to say, but let's just try to be.
What, didn't I just ask you this question? It's so weird. Just the people that are listening, we come with our story ideas. Nobody knows we don't know what each of us is talking about.
Right.
I was just asking her this dang question, and she's written a book answering the question. I mean, this is too weird.
So here it comes.
There you go.
Here's what I got. So what are the ways that we block goodness? So here's a few things. Okay. One of them is anger. When you're angry, you are blocking a flow of awareness, you're blocking a flow of love. And basically, the best thing to do when you find yourself being angry is try to understand what is it you wanted that you didn't get. Because yogis say that anger is frustrated desire. So, what didn't you get that you wanted? And is it something you can potentially work towards getting, or is it something, find a way to fulfill it, or is it something you should just shed? The thing is, when you're angry, you're hurting whoever else you're angry. If you're angry at someone, you're hurting them because inevitably, even if you don't say anything mean, you're sending out an energy. And it's impacting you. It stays in your physical body for 20 to 48 hours. And it stays in your mind and emotions a hell of a lot longer than that.
Awful, awful.
It's awful. And it's a blockage in the heart because the heart's where we receive. And I know Kathy talked about this last week, but there's this old driving slogan, courtesy is contagious. Well, guess what? So is kindness.
Mm.
And if you can open your heart, let love and spirit flow, the reaction of others changes, and so do you.
Mm.
Yogis say that spirit or God or higher consciousness, whatever you want to call that universal presence, whatever you do to others, if they're suffering, if they need help, or if they've hurt you, whatever you do to them, you're doing it to universal consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to make that shift. There has to be a shift to love and kindness when you're so how do you do it when you're basically pissed off at somebody? It's not easy.
It's not easy.
But there's a forgiveness practice that is phenomenal. It's a really great thing. And I want to do this practice, and I'm debating whether we should do it now or just do it at the end, because there's a couple other things I want to talk about. But
Now,
yeah, okay. All
that's
right.
my vote.
Okay, let's do it now. So forgiveness, here's what you do. Whatever made you angry, and usually it's a person, right? So
Yeah.
you're sitting and you sit and you take a few deep breaths, try to get yourself feeling pretty calm. And then you'll visualize this person sitting in front of you. And you say, I thank you for teaching me.
Okay.
and you try to open your heart to what it is you've learned. Maybe you always learn something. Maybe you've learned about your own reaction.
Mhm.
I thank you for teaching me. I have an open mind about this. And you sit with it a little bit. Like you don't just say, thank you for teaching me. Okay. You gotta, I would start out with, I have an open mind about this. And
Yeah.
then thank you for teaching me. And you try to be open to whatever the lesson is and try to really understand the lesson. And then you want to say to this person, may the best happen for both of us, and really mean it.
I'm
Uh,
writing it down. That's important. You
I,
can feel the shift, like I'm doing it in my head as you're talking, but I can feel the energy shift. It's like the focus comes off of the anger and goes on to the forgiveness. So even if you don't get the answer of, what am I learning here? You might get that a few hours later, down the road a little bit. You've already shifted your energy.
yeah, there's a shift. There was this person that I had to be involved with, working with, and he was arrogant and obnoxious, and the kind of person that I really don't like to be around. I put him in my jerk category because they're just that offensive. And I realized that I was, you know, putting a wall up and being angry at this person. And
Mhm.
so I did this practice. Here's the interesting thing that happened. When I was doing, I thank you for teaching me. I felt his pain. That was the answer I got. I felt his pain.
Wow.
And after I felt his pain, it just dissolved.
Wow.
The anger dissolved. It was gone. And when I said, may the best happen for both of us. And then you want to say, may the higher will be done at the end. And then you let it go. You let it go.
Mhm.
But what happened was that shift in my energy created a shift in any contact I had with this person in the future. Because now, instead of my hard-hearted anger, there was this open-hearted love and compassion,
Yeah.
and it was entirely different experience.
And then oftentimes people like that, and this is often in a work environment,
Yeah.
don't even know that their energy just shifted and they're acting differently now.
No,
It's
they don't know.
they're unconscious to it totally.
No, they're unconscious to it, but it happens.
It does happen, yeah.
It does happen. It does happen. And it's a phenomenal practice. I mean, and you do want to start out, you want to have an open mind about it, because if you go in, this person didn't teach me anything. You have to have an open mind. That's why I say take some deep breaths and know that you know, I
Yeah,
mean, it's a great practice, and
yeah,
you let things go. The other thing is, do this with yourself too. Sit yourself in that chair, because often when we're not open to receiving, it's because we don't feel that we should. We don't feel we're good enough, or we're angry at ourselves for something. Oh, I made a mistake 20 years ago. I mean, our subconscious hangs on to stuff.
okay.
So do that practice with yourself. It's an incredible experience.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, I would do it. I would do it all the time. I do it all the time. And it shifts. The thing is, you want to shift out of the reactive anger mode into a proactive love and kindness mode. And remember that, whatever you're doing to anyone else, you're doing it to spirit, to the universal consciousness. It's
Yeah.
going to come back to you. It is going to come back to you one way or another. And so if you're sending out love and forgiveness and kindness, That's going to come back to you. Maybe not from that person in that moment, but that's what's going to come back.
Makes sense.
So that's one of the primary things. Fear is another one. Fear takes away our ability to think clearly, and it usually attracts what we fear. We're putting all of our awareness on what we fear. It's the old story about the kid riding the bike who's afraid of running into a tree.
You.
About running into a tree so much, that's what happened. I'm the kid that did that. I'm the one. That is a cliche, but I actually did it.
Yeah.
I was 7 years old. I'm riding my bike and I'm thinking, don't hit that tree. Be careful. Bam, I smashed it. And I try to remember that when I get into a mode of being fearful about something, because you feel that angst in the navel center and the
Sure.
heart. Everything tightens up,
Yeah.
and you put all of your awareness onto what you're fearing, and that's where all the energy goes.
Right.
Like yogis say, the soul doesn't know the word not, so it's going there. It's all going there. Takes you out of that love and kindness mode. So, it's hard. I mean, overcoming fear is not an easy thing, but most things we fear never really happen. That's what worrying is all about. It's being afraid of something that never really happens. There was this psychologist that I knew once, and I loved this joke he told. He said, "Do you know the difference between a psychotic and a neurotic?" And I said, "No, what is it?" And he said, "Well, a psychotic knows the world's going to end tomorrow. The neurotic knows that it's not, but they worry about it anyway."
We do it all the time. It's not even funny. It's true.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is you want to look at it, and it's like people, you have a medical issue, so you start looking up symptoms on the internet. Oh my God.
I was just doing that.
Worst case scenarios. Worst case scenarios.
Oh my God.
A number of years ago, I had to have a hysterectomy, and before I made a decision, I was talking to the gynecologist, and I said something to her, and she said, "Oh my God, are you looking this up on the internet?"
Of course.
I
Yes.
said, "Yeah," and she said, "Don't do that." She said, "There are all these people with these worst case scenarios," and she said, like, where the percentage of that happening is like 1%, and you know, and it's not about you as an individual. And anyway, I stopped. I stopped. But there's some very concrete thing in cognitive behavior therapy. You can do this with a phobia. I mean, I had gotten trapped at the Metropolitan Museum uh, in New York
Oh,
many
wow.
years ago. I got trapped in an elevator, and ever since then, I really like going in elevators. I became claustrophobic, and so most of the time I live in Southern California. I avoided places with elevators, and then I had to go on a business trip to New York. There's no way I was going to avoid
You
them.
avoid elevators in New
So I
York.
started working with someone who, Mike, and he in cognitive behavioral therapy, and it was fairly fantastic because it was simple. He said, "Okay, you have to look at the situation. What's the worst thing that can happen?" So I said, "Well, I'm stuck in this box." I said, "Well, what's going to happen to you there?" He said, "I can't breathe." You know, he said, "Okay." He said, "But what's really happening? You're afraid you're going to die. You're not going to be able to breathe." He said, "But here's the reality. They're not airtight, you know."
Air comes into an elevator.
Air comes in. And statistics are, and he could show me the statistics, that response time is generally 45 minutes, even if you do get stuck. He said, but the actual number of times they get stuck, there were statistics on that, is very, very small. So I started laughing at myself a bit, and I was able to do it. And I still work at that, if
Sure.
I have to go into an MRI, I don't just go in, I take a Valium, but, but the thing is, I do know that what if I am putting my awareness on the thing I fear, it's going to get worse. There's a book about after cancer care. Maybe you've had a serious diagnosis about something, and so you have this genuine cause for concern. In this book, written by a couple of oncologists, they said that the patients that believed they were cured after treatment were, and the patients that were really afraid of it coming back did get it back.
Thanks.
And,
Wow.
that's a reality. And these are scientists,
Yeah.
oncologists talking about, and they were saying, if you've had treatment and you're done, do everything you can to stay healthy and know that you are cured. They used to say cancer was in remission. They don't say that anymore. They say you're cancer free because
Interesting because of that. Yeah.
it's a whole different attitude. So even when there is a major thing going on in your life, you can still focus on what you want and what could potentially be the reality instead of putting your attention on what you think the bad thing is.
Right.
I thought that was very significant. Thinking about, I really thought they were ridiculous. They said they're cured, they were. Some of the other things that block us are shame and guilt. Shame is something that really cripples people. Sometimes parents try to discipline their child by shaming them, and it's a sad thing because then the child usually lives with shame, feels inadequate, and they tend to be mean to themselves.
Their whole lives sometimes. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Check out your self-talk. What do you say to yourself when you stub your toe? Probably not anything you would say to someone else who stubbed their toe, you know. So look at your self-talk. And if you're being mean to yourself, try to make a shift. You feel like you don't deserve it? You do. I mean, what yogis know, and this is not just an idea, is that within us, within that inner self, is that potential to have whatever we need, to have every need met, the inner power to change things. So you need to know that you are worth it and you can have it. Guilt is closely related to shame. It's hard to attract happiness when you feel guilty. And same thing, you don't feel like you deserve it. You have to shift your mindset. You have to be saying to yourself, I do deserve it. Why not? Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe, we all make mistakes. We all do something wrong. But if you keep clubbing yourself over the head with it, you're just blocking out the future. If you've done something genuinely wrong, you made a big mistake, do everything you can to fix it, own up to it, try to fix it, and move on.
Let it go. Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up over it because that puts a kink in the energy.
Yeah.
A couple other things. I just want to hit them kind of quickly. Arrogance. Arrogance is a feeling of I'm better than you. So
Yeah.
there's a simple solution to that one. Try to cultivate humbleness. I know that's easier said than done, but there's a yoga pose called the hare, where you're on your knees and you just put your forehead on the mat and arms on your side, and then you pick I can't really show you this, but pick your bottom. You hold on to your heels and come up onto your knees,
Google it.
and it helps to cultivate humbleness, just doing that. And it's think of something that is beautiful and of value to you. I mean, if you believe in God or you believe in higher consciousness, try to humble yourself before that. Just try to, yoga, we do a pronoun. My higher self bows to your higher self. So try to do that. Try to realize that we're all the same. We all have that same consciousness within us. It's an experience in yoga called Mahat, where you experience the oneness in everyone. And no matter what you know or do, There's always something to learn. The other thing that puts the kink into the receiving energy is prejudice. You're making other people into objects. And as a result, you think you can treat them badly. Maybe it's not that conscious, but the universe responds by giving you a hard time. You give a group of people a hard time, you'll have a hard time. You'll suffer from mental turbulence and likely abuse from others as well. So if you have a prejudice, and it happens, try to do something kind or good for that person or people like that. Maybe, I felt like that person I mentioned that I work with, it was a prejudice because I put him into the jerk category. That was a category where I could,
Ignore.
ignore or be, whatever. So if you have a prejudice, do something kind for that person or that group of people. Even if it's hard at first, you will find something really genuine in those people that you have put into this category. And just remember, whatever you do to or for others, you're doing it to or for spirit or higher consciousness. And you're ultimately doing it to yourself because it all comes back. So you want to open the energy, open the floodgates. So that's my story.
Yeah, that's a good story. That was helpful.
It's something you just gotta, if you find that you're not feeling, when you look at it deeply, if you're feeling like, oh, I'm not deserving or I'm not good enough, or there's guilt or shame in there, then do your best to try to shed whatever it is that caused that. Try to sense the beauty. Think of, the beautiful things you've done. So
Yeah.
I hope this is helpful. I hope it's a value. So
Was to me, so that's good
good.
start.
Hey, one person. That's all. That's good enough. So thanks, everyone. Great to see
Thank you for coming. See you next
you
week.
soon. Bye.
Bye.